Everybody. Thank you, Hannah, for your nice introduction. Thank you, Patrick and Natalie, for your splendid informational talks. I'm Roland. As Hannah said, I live in Curacao, specialize in arid climate zones, and I would love to help the community in Guatemala with my knowledge also, if possible, in the future, near future. But yeah, let us go to the slideshow, to the video. Don't waste no time.
Hello, this is Roland van Reenen and I made this recording for the webinar Agroforestry and Smallholders. And I made this in case of possibly power failures or internet interruptions. Okay, today I'm going to talk about Syntropic agroforestry. To understand more about Syntropic agroforestry, we have to know more about the meaning of syntropy. Syntropy means an accumulation of energy from simple to complex, and it's the opposite of entropy. Entropy is a state of disorder, confusion, or disorganization, or a gradual decline of energy. As you see on this slide, you see modern agriculture is moving towards the state of entropy, and Syntropic agroforestry is moving to the complex situation. The complex situation, accumulation of energy, as I stated already, abundance of energy, food, water, microbacteria and fungi life, photosynthesis, diversity, plants, in short, an abundance and accumulation of life. There's more energy generated than invested. So very important to know, we are moving towards a state of abundance, while normal conventional agriculture is moving backwards in time to the state of entropy, like a desert. You see there's a succession going on of ecosystems in time and space. Syntropic agroforestry mimics the natural succession cycles in nature and accelerate those cycles. It's very important to understand. Nature has been divided in time sequences that moves towards a certain direction, from the state of entropy to a state of abundance, from a colonizing state to a state of abundance, and in between there's a state of accumulation. So every stage prepares the way for the next stage by accumulating enough energy, and each stage is made up of a series of cycles that can be divided into placenta, secondary and climax. And each cycle and stage creates the circumstances for the next by accumulating more energy. A climax stage can create senescence and will be pushed into succession by natural disasters. You can think of storms, lightning, fire, floodings, earthquakes. And we do it in this case by pruning. But pruning is our controlled form of destruction that pushes the system into more abundance, that pushes the state system into the next phases. So we really skip a lot of phases by pruning. So what happened whenever a plant variety goes into senescence? Let's take grasses. If grasses start to seed, it starts slowing down its process. It starts doesn't need no water anymore, so it starts communicating with the mycorrhizal fungi network that it doesn't need water. It's too bad for all the other plants. So you see, when the grass is aging and dying off, all the other plants are also going a little bit backwards in their development. And same happens with the biomass trees. If the biomass trees are slowing down, and then also our target trees, the fruit trees, are going down. So we can prevent this and speed up this process, the succession, by pruning. So if you prune the grass, then instead of going down, while the grass starts regrowing, everything starts regrowing with the grass again. So we skip those phases of the climax phase and the destruction by making sure that the climax phase has never been reached. So it will keep on growing. So by pruning the grass, the biomass trees start to grow. By pruning the biomass trees, our target trees, the fruit trees, start growing. Cyclically, it normally take maybe hundreds of years. We can create a forest like even in arid zones, especially in arid zones, where it maybe takes maybe 100 years to get a forest on the ground. We can do it in a year of 3. That's a real advancement of Syntropic agroforestry. 5 principles are of Syntropic agroforestry, as have been taught by my teachers Tiago and Murillo, are keep the soil covered always. Maximization of photosynthesis. Stratification is a technology to obtain the maximization of photosynthesis. Stratification means planting in layers. I will come back to that later. Succession and management. All these principles work synergetically to accelerate the succession to the states of abundance. Because it's the states of abundance, that's where we want to be. The picture you see how much organic material put on the soil to keep the soil covered always. Why do we want to reach this state of abundance so eagerly? It is a state of accumulated energy because of the amount of captured photosynthesis. So by applying the stratification, we can increase the amount of photosynthesis to 200%. Let me explain. Because we can plant we divide the stratas in low strata, medium strata, high strata and emergent strata. Low strata means low demand for sunlight, medium strata means medium demand for sunlight, high is high demand for sunlight, emergent is 100% of sunlight demand. That means if you can know which crops belongs to a certain strata, you can plant them very close. So in this case it's very good for smallholders. So we can plant a lot of trees and also a lot of crops together if we know the strata which they belong to. 80% of the land can be filled with low strata. The next strata we can apply like 60%. Then we have the high strata which can occupy about 40% of the system. So and then the emergent strata we only plant 20%. So once you know the different stratas we can plant them very close together. Now let's do the math. We got 80% of low, then we got 60% of medium, it's 140. Then 40% of the high, that makes it 180. And 20% of the medium. So that means that we got 200% of maximization, 200% of photosynthesis process captures in the system. That's what we call accumulation of energy. It's in itself already syntropy. The state of abundance is a natural habitat for most of our crops. Because if you check the leaf material of most of our vegetable crops, lettuce, the leaves are very vulnerable. They are filled with water. They trust their surroundings. These are not plants to grow in a desert, even in a man-made desert like most farms are. Because by plowing and tilling, you remove all of the other vegetation, expose your crops to a full spectrum of sunlight, and they cannot stand it. So most of our crops are supposed to grow in the state of abundance. In the state of abundance there's not water, for instance, not enough nutrients. There are not enough microbacterial life. There are no weeds there, because weeds don't like to grow in stages where they're dominated by fungi. Pests are rare, because pests indicate a lack of nutrients, lack of energy. That's the most important indication that pests are active, that there's not enough photosynthesis, there's not enough sugar in the leaf material, there's not enough energy, in short. The accumulation of energy fails the crops. Then the pests come in. The water cycles are self-sustaining, and it's with the least amount of energy input we harvest the most of energy. Okay, in order to skip those phases we mimic a forest that has been destroyed. When the forest has been destroyed, all the trees fall down, the branches cover the soil, the trees are covering the soil, the leaf material covers the soil, so you gotta, in this way it's an acceleration of growth also, because it's an acceleration of energy that has been falling down to the earth. We mimic this. So instead of starting over again in the colonizer stage, like conventional agriculture does every time they plow, every time you plow you bring back your land into the colonizer stage. Yeah? So we skip this and start already in the forest-like situation, and fungi-dominated situation in which weeds don't like to grow. And the water will be used will be less because of all the organic material that soak up water, that store water, that can contain the water for a longer period than if there's no organic material. The abundance of crops that are growing in 1 month after implementation in Tanzania, the left picture. A lot of growth. You see, these are all crops and they all grow on the same space. but because they're divided in strata, they won't compete. In the next picture you see 2 months after in the implementation in Central Kenya, you see a lot of crop varieties like maize, kale is there, there's zucchini growing, there's carrots are growing, not visible here, but they're also there. Then they grow very densely because their demands for sunlight are different. So that's the importance of knowing the strata of each and every crop. So syntropic agroforestry is based upon the knowledge of the amount of sunlight each crop needs. If that amount is different, you can plant those crops very close to each other without any competition. That's what we call the stratification. The more shade they need, the more you can plant with. So we also mimic the principle of succession. Crops that produce in different time can be planted also very close. And also, each crop succeeds the other, so in time, and create new space for the next crop. And also, each species creates the conditions for the next species to follow. So each crop creates the better conditions for the next crop to follow. First Syntropic agroforestry farm in Curacao. Remember, all these crops were all planted in the same day. Put in like 52 seeds in 1 square meter only for vegetables. So in between, afterwards, there's no tilling, there's no work. And normally when you plant maize, you have to wait for a few months to harvest your maize, and in the meantime you don't have no income. But now you before the maize got ready, you got already the radishes, you got cucumbers, you got melon, without losing anything on your maize. And after the maize, the harvest go on without any work, without any tilling, without any applying new fertilizers. The only thing we do is chopping and dropping. And a very interesting thing also is that the vegetables, not only they bring in cash, they bring in harvest, and you can bring them to the market, but also very important, they nurture, they nourish, and they protect the young vulnerable trees. In the case of this picture, you see in the right picture, you see coffee, completely surrounded by cassava, beans, and also banana. First picture you see an avocado. Avocado is an emergent tree, but when it's young it's very vulnerable. We planted them in this case underneath the placenta of cassava. So after the cassava has been harvested after 9 months, then the tree will be shaded by bananas and papaya that are also there. The vegetables are the direct return of your investment, your long-term investment. Okay, this was a very short presentation. If you want to know more, you can check my YouTube channel. That's Roland van Reenen, the forest farmer. Or send an email to rolandvanreenen@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Hope you got some information that can be useful for you.